Okay, this is a video that's going to explain the different elements of the consumption of Mary that is coming up. By the time most people see this video, the article will already be out and people will have read it. The article did not cover this first section that we're going to cover, which is the pentagonal mirror gate. If you read any of our literature, if you read any of our blogs, we kind of talk about it, but it's not a big basis of things that we normally let out to the public. But one of the things about the pentagonal mirror gate is obviously, like in the middle of a star, you have the pentagon. The reason that this is such a powerful thing to use is because you have such a vast amount of infinity reflections into all the different mirrors constantly reflecting into one another. So if you just have two and you have that infinity, two mirrors, imagine having five shaped in the form of a pentagon that has an angle for the power to go in one particular direction. I'm not going to get into all the occult meanings of this. I'm just going to present it and show people what it is. Inside is set up for when the priestess calls Kali Ma to the mirror gate and then into herself. It's very similar to that of what Tantric Hindu call a puja ritual. It's not exactly the same. And again, for the Civic Center, we can't have a live flame, so there are certain things that has to be changed, like there's not going to be an oil lamp and so on and so forth. And yes, we will be using strobe lights, and a strobe light within the mirror help bounce those pentagonal flashes. So in the consumption of Mary, the priestess will be sitting on the red pillow. I'm not going to get into all the basis of all these details because, quite frankly, this is for public consumption, not what we do privately. The weapon is there for Kali's weapon, which will be used on the Mother Mary, and the different articles that are needed. If there are any questions about this, you can find this privately. We're not going to get into a big discussion. Beyond that, this is where the priestess will be preparing herself to be possessed by Kali Ma in order to begin the destruction before the consumption of Mary. Okay, what you're looking at here is what we're calling the Asura Yantra trap. It's a combination of understanding both Hindu yantras along with the triangle trap from Solomonic magic. She's bound 3 times because just like Shiva binds Chitamasta 3 times, we're going to bind Mary 3 times. Obviously, the triangle, like normally you would have the different names of God or whoever to protect the triangle, but we're not into that garbage. And obviously, because the triangle's down, we're withholding a female entity, because that's the purpose of the downward triangle. This diamond that you see with the M's is an old school emblem for Mary. And recently Kanye West has been using it on an album cover, and it's been quite making a stir. There's not really much to say on it. Now, the middle, and it should be more oval-esque, but we'll work with what we got. Is what's known as the miraculous medallion of the Virgin Mary. This is normally worn as a talisman that they use for protection and to gain miracles or to gain favor from the entity known as the Virgin Mary. And what you have is the Christ cross resting on the Mary because they're interconnected, you know, mother and son, all that BS. And you have the 12 stars, and yes, they're stars of David. And then here you have the flaming heart of Jesus, and then you have the pierced heart of Mary. And this is on the back of a talisman normally, and this is supposed to provoke the Mother Mary. These are the symbologies, I guess, what you would meditate on and pray to in order to create and get in sync with Mary to have a miracle. And so this is going to trap her in her own spiritual dimension that's going to give us a direct beeline to her. Just as you would put a seal or a seal from Solomonic magic, you would put, say, Belphegor. You'd put a seal in normally what was a circle, which is supposed to be a black mirror, and you would put the seal in a black mirror, and then you would do the magic process. But since we're dealing with an Asura, and we're dealing with a different type of entity, we're using the triangle because of the acute angles, along with the miraculous thing, to directly have a beeline and hold Mary in this spot, since this is what helps her create miracles and connects her to the physical world. Okay, so at the consumption of Mary, here she'll be in her trap, and we have a corrupted quartz crystal on top of her head, so she can't escape the trap. What will be happening is there will be three things happening at once. There'll be three people with her shinzing and saying the humiliate Mary prayer around her. While that's happening, a priest will be in front of the Mary and doing a Solomonic ritual, charging the blood from the menses pot, so that at the point in time, this blood will be dumped on the priestess who's in the pentagonal mirror gate, which we showed earlier. And the reason that we do that is because in the tantric rituals, in order to be possessed by Kali Ma, they would sacrifice a goat, and then all the blood that they got in a bowl from a goat, they would throw it on the female to have that possession occur. Menses blood from our menses pot, like we do for the majority of our rituals. Once the blood is thrown on the priestess in the pentagonal gate, the priest himself will switch over into forcing Mary into her idol while they're still with her shinzing. Once the priestess is fully possessed, she will take the knife, she will cut Mary. Once she has cut Mary, two people will take sledgehammers to the idol, break it up, and then there'll be a surprise after that.